Hello. We are going to do a brief check to make sure that the audio does not sound like absolute garbage because, it always likes to give me trouble. It always likes to give me trouble. So we just want to double check. See how things feel, how the vibe is. Let me turn it down just a tish bit, just in case. And for the most part, we are okay. We're doing good. Okay. Okay. Sorry that this video ended up coming out later. The stream ended up happening later than I was expecting. Got called into work extremely, excruciatingly last minute, and I'm exhausted and dying. But we definitely wanted to do this stream because I actually I've been wanting to talk about my feelings about this book since I read it. And I also would love to, it'd be nice if I could catch up on my reading and my streams before the next quarter starts. That'd be so nice. We'll probably end up doing just a wrap up that is combined with both. Oh no, I thought the volume was completely off on that. Hopefully that wasn't annoying. But we're probably gonna do a wrap up that's combining both this current quarter and last quarter because I'm behind. But before we get into the review for No One's Gonna Take Your Soul Away, imagine, first and foremost, let's appreciate my notes and how pretty they are. I just love it. Imagine though the left side that the cover for this book is present because it was supposed to be. It's on in my actual notes app. It is there. I don't know why it didn't export, but that's a problem for another day, I guess. All the notes look like it exported fine, so we're just gonna move on with life. But before we get into anything else, let's talk about things that could potentially, help keep the lights on and whatnot, and that is my own books. If you like reading, I also write books, so you can check those out. We have on the left my YA spy series, The Queen of Thieves. I've also done a video stream talking about going over and essentially doing the same kind of review on that, doing a thingy. Hopefully that doesn't cause too many shenanigans. But you can find that book, Imani and Lee's Fashion Bible. That one is also available on Itchio. I believe the Itchio link should be in the description, and that one is going to have the option to just get the book for free if you would so be interested, which you're more than welcome to do. But along with that, down below, you're also going to find several other links. You're going to find links. That's a great place to stop. Along with that, you're going to find links to it is the spreadsheet of GoFundMe's for people in a bunch of the conflict zones or genocides around the world right now. So we got Haiti, Sudan, Congo, and it also has links to the Olive Branch Project Olive Branch, I believe is what it's called, for the compilation of GoFundMe's for Palestine. I will also look into some other links that I can put down below since GoFundMe is being a real fucking cock lately. But that link is down below. I also have links to, because I recently found out that Canva is a Zionist organization. They're a Zionist organization, they're an AI organization. Nothing about Canva is good anymore. And so I have linked below snappa.com, which is a non-Zionist alternative for people to check out, and I will keep that link down below until I've officially transitioned out of Canva. The goal is next year, the beginning of next year. It's just with a lot of these projects that are oh, here's my accumulation of the books that are on my anticipated list and stuff like that. It's difficult moving all those graphics over somewhere else. But we have Snappa, which is the non-Zionist alternative, which is essentially the exact same thing as Canva. I also have academic presentation. It is a computer software called Academic Presenter. That is if you want to do like presentations in a very like Prezi zoom around the project kind of way, that I put it down there because that's something I've been looking for a while, and so I figured maybe it would help to share that with other people who might have been looking for something similar. But yeah, so links to my books, links to the GoFundMe organizations and GoFundMe spreadsheets, and links to the non-Zionist Canva alternatives all down below. Back to this book. Let's get into our description of this book. So our main character, Sapphira, let's open up by saying I really was interested in this book because it is just, the author described it as Dante's Inferno meets The Wiz. Our main character, Sapphira, is in an abusive relationship, and her boyfriend kills her in a deal with a demon to help further his music career. So already not having a fun start, this woman. The symbol Dante is the boyfriend, carves into her chest, gets her sent down to the worst of the islands of Pandemonia, aka Hell. She meets up with a vampire and later a werewolf who join her in her attempts to escape the underworld by crossing across all of the islands. But Tartagonon, Lord of the Underworld, doesn't like that. So he sends his daughter that he's been abusing for millennia to trick and stop them, but daughter immediately falls for Sapphira and joins their side. We'll get into that a little bit later. The three escape. The daughter, Astrophel, becomes the new Lord of the Underworld, and Dante eventually dies and goes to Pandemonia. That is the basic overview of the book. And there, I feel like I want to get, like, it's hard to get into things that because part of me is like, what? I should maybe get into the things that, like, were really, like, major critique, things that, like, I had big problems with in the book, and then get into things I like. But there were a lot of the things that I really liked just ended up something ended up happening with them to also add a lot of critique. Like, for instance, there is a scene at the very beginning of the book where, let me see if I can find my notes on this. There's a scene at the beginning of the book when she is dying, and that, yeah, here she is dying and she is fighting essentially to try and remain in her body. And so you have the scene where the carriage driver is coming to pick her up, grabs her soul, but she is fighting, jumping off the carriage. When she jumps off the carriage, she like slams back into reality and is in like an ambulance, and she's watching them like try and bring her back, and that's how she's like clinging to these aspects of life. But then the carriage rider comes in, whips her, drags her soul out, and she's like dragging against the ground, but then she snaps back into the carriage. And it was a really well done scene of her just snapping in and out of what little life she has left. And I loved that scene. And immediately after, like literally the next, like that ends the chapter, and then the next chapter they immediately, I don't even want to say retcon it, because it feels like we just forgot that existed. They're like they were literally immediately talking about, oh, your sister's gonna find you like dead in the snow. Your sister's never, like, your body's just in the snow sitting cold and stiff. And she's thinking about how long is it gonna be before someone finds her body. And it's like we were just there. Did none of that happened, nothing made it clear to me as a reader that this ambulance also wasn't real. And I don't understand the purpose of the ambulance if the ambulance was not a real thing going on. Because again, like I was describing, what it would feel like if the ambulance is real, then the idea is that she's clinging in and out, she's fading in and out of life. She's fading in and out of consciousness, clinging to the last bits of life. If the ambulance is not real, I don't know what happened there. And so it doesn't feel like it was retconned. It feels like the book just immediately forgot that happened. And that was so frustrating, because that was such, and like I was so invested in that scene, and then for the book to just throw it away immediately broke my heart. And I feel like that's kind of the big issue I have with a lot of this book, is that it feels like things were thrown out there, ideas were thrown out there, but that didn't happen. The story did not follow through on it. The story did not do those things. Let's go back to my, also, I don't know if you probably haven't seen, but like in my notes, I doodled a lot in my notes instead of like grabbing photos. I doodled a lot in my notes, but put me back. I drew a little knife. It's fine. I'm a dork. So one of the problems I had with the book is it had a really bad tendency to just repeat itself, either at like an exact repetition of something that was just said, or repeating repeating but barely rephrasing something, like using the same words but just in a different order, and then just right after it. That was something that got really annoying as I was reading. I think the most egregious example of this is when we first dropped down into Pandemonia. I'm fairly certain the author uses the word red to describe the first island. Because the first island's supposed to be blood and gore and death. The author, it felt like they used the word red, R-E-D, the color red, 40 times in just that one chapter. And I like synonyms, just like there's just it was just a very frustrating thing, to the point. Let me see if I can find. It was just very, like, it's something that bothers me when I am reading, to just see the same thing over and over again. And that was not a fun time. That was not a fun thing to read. And as much as I didn't like it, that was not like the big issue I have with the book. That is not the reason why I was like 3-star. Because my 3-star is I wouldn't read this book again. I think once was good enough. Once was good time. And the reason for that is because honestly, when it comes to the character story, what the characters of this book are in this book, I probably didn't even need to read this book to know exactly what these characters were going to do, how they were going to behave. And it reminds me, and let me make it very clear, this author specifically didn't say this, but it reminds me of like a thing I saw on author Twitter, which I hate how defensive authors get on Twitter whenever someone like critiques or says something about their work. Where someone said the twist, like an author was getting defensive because I guess they don't like seeing people say the twist was predictable. Their response was, yeah, it's predictable because that's storytelling that works, and it's predictable because that was exactly what the author was trying to like accomplish. And it's like, yes, yes, there are stories. You can tell a story that isn't necessarily unique. You can tell a story that isn't necessarily mind-blowing, but that also doesn't, just because someone else has been able to do it and accomplish it, and just because it's an accomplished and like established storytelling arc, doesn't mean it's entertaining. Like, I know if I see 2 plus 2, I know I can predict that the answer should be 4, but that does not mean I want to read 2 plus 2 kind of thing. The characters in here were just not like, not like, God, the character arcs were not present. There was no arcing to the arcs at all in any way, shape, or form, and Astrophel is going to be the worst example of this. But let me go back and say a great example of, I feel what I'm talking about, is the book is split up into sections. One of the sections is called Le Freak, and I feel like it's reasonable with this book being described as Dante's Infernos meets The Wiz. I think it's fair for me to have thought that there was going to be some like sexy scenes going on there. I also think it's fully reasonable that the author did not do that. My problem is nothing freaky happened at all in that section of the book. At all. And it's frustrating because we did have a freaky island. There was an island in which there were like plants that were like capturing people and on top of people and like slowly eating them, and the way that was described was freaky. That was like kind of body horror-ish, gore-ish. That was interesting. The islands we got here were like people dragging someone on a chariot and like just dying in the cold with like ghost wolves, and I think one of them was also just getting thrown into the water with a monster. Like, that's not freaky. The closest thing is, we do get the introduction of Astrophel, and in her introduction, she eats someone's eyes to like see what they've seen. That's the only time she does anything similar to that until the very end of the fucking book, which, when it's brought up in the end of the book, it's like oh yeah, I guess she can do that. It's not a character trait of hers. It's that thing she did once, I guess, and I completely forgot about it. And I think that, like, I think that is a very good example of how the book really does kind of tell us something's happening without like actually doing the character work. So we also see Max is the name of the vampire, and I genuinely couldn't tell you what the name of the werewolf is, but we have Max and this werewolf who they meet. There is a lot of just instant, unreasonable, just constant aggression between them, and immediately after, like literally 2 seconds after, they're just, that's my friend right there. How dare you do that to my friend? My friend almost died because of you. And it's, none of it was necessary. None of that was fucking necessary. Which, side note, there's, the book also kind of, just the way they treat death in the book makes it zero stakes, zero, like, zero, it just doesn't mean anything when characters die in this book, and yet they keep, again, telling us, oh, I don't want them to die, I'm so scared that they might die, but you just wake up. You'll just wake up in, like, 20 minutes, I don't know. Another example of the rough character arcs is, so Max and Sapphira meet first. And as quite literally, Max drops everything in his fucking life to protect Sapphira at every stage. He constantly offers her emotional support, offers her physical support to help her, like, get through these fucking islands. and helps her, is a shoulder for her to cry on. She cries and she is baby and we take care of her. And at the, like, that's fine, but then at the end of the fucking book, oh, you guys have been wanting to hate fuck this whole time. Where was the hate? Hate was not present. Hate was not in the book whatsoever. And no, there's a cat being really cute. But yeah, like, that's another, like, they threw in the end that I guess they was supposed to be an enemies to lovers, except if your enemy wanted nothing but the best for you at every stage of your life. And that was just completely out of nowhere, and a completely incorrect assessment of the book that I was provided. And then we get to Astrophel. So Astrophel's story is she is the daughter of Tartagonon. He has been abusing her, like literally has her chained and in a perpetual state of being basically dead in his basement. He lets her go, and after she heals up, he's like, I want you to go trick them into trusting you, so that way you can help bring them in, stop them from escaping, and break their spirit. And she's like, sure, I'll do anything to get in your good graces. Gets there. She gets to Sapphira and them. Immediately falls in love with Sapphira. Immediately. Which, another side note, Astrophel's chapters were actually some of the most annoying things, because the idea is that Astrophel is watching and monitoring them. But that was displayed by literally just recapping the shit we just read. And that was so annoying. But she gets there, immediately falls in love with Sapphira, and proceeds to do literally nothing with regard, like, nothing in even a vague shape of betrayal. The closest thing that she does is she tells them, I'm gonna go do a like surveillance check the perimeter, see if there's anything we should be concerned about. I'm gonna go do that. And she doesn't do that. She instead goes to Earth to find the demon that made the deal with Dante. That's the reason Sapphira's in this whole thing to begin with. She kills him, and then she goes and demands her mother, who is the one that casts judgment and sent Sapphira down here, tells her mother she doesn't belong down in Pandemonia. I demand you send her back. And then she goes right back to them. Oh my god, the fucking betrayal. The only other thing you could somewhat say is that she does technically cause some tension in the group, but it's only because she genuinely falls in love with Sapphira and genuinely causes some jealousy with Max, who is also in love with Sapphira, but then makes a deal with him that it's Sapphira's choice. Whoever she chooses, it's up to her, and that's where that goes. And there's just genuinely, we keep being told, oh, she's got this big decision to make, she's caught in between these two worlds, but she does literally nothing that would work in the favor of her doing this, of her working with Tartagonon. She does nothing that actually would help him. And what really irritates me is where we get to the end in which Tartagonon comes, and he's like, you did it. You brought them to me to sabotage their escape. And Astrophel's like, no, I'm here to actually help them. I support them. She dies because of it. And you have Sapphira screaming at herself, how could I tell? If I can't tell the difference between her and between Dante, if I can't tell the difference between people who are lying to me and betraying me. But she didn't do that. Like, and it's frustrating in the context of this person is literally trying to mentally work her way out of, like, the mindset that held her in an abusive relationship, and you're comparing the abusive person to a person who literally did nothing but treat you with kindness, help you, support you, and protect you, but at worst gave you a different name than her actual fucking name. Which did she or did she just have them call her Astra? I don't remember. I think they just called her Astra, which in that case, again, like she's literally actually done no incorrect, no wrong things. She's done nothing to actually hurt you in any way, shape, or form. And I don't understand like, so especially to have this like sentiment where she is upset that she wasn't able to pick up on the betrayal, because the betrayal wasn't present, honey, because she was not trying to betray you. She was never going to betray you. You were not going to convince me this woman was going to betray her in the slightest, because nothing in the text said she was going to betray her in the slightest. Yeah, it was. I did not like the character work of this book. There was also, I think the closest we got was Sapphira was. There was. I don't even know what the author wanted. By the way, I rated this a 3-star. By the way, I don't even know what the author wanted in terms of Sapphira's character arc, because there was a moment where she's talking about how she's felt so embarrassed for being a crying kid and for being someone that cries a lot, and she like continues crying throughout the book, which I thought was could be an interesting path to go, because I have seen a review of The Wiz that was like, why the fuck is Dorothy just a crybaby in this movie? And so it would be interesting to see a book talk about someone who is extremely emotional, who is in need of support, but it, like, you had a moment like that, and then you have a bunch of other like quotes and the dedication of the book that's talking about how, oh, you can do it for yourself, take care of yourself, this is for those that needed to like save themselves. And that's not at all what Sapphira did. She, again, at every step of the way, exclusively depended on fucking Max for her ability to survive the entire time. She would have been dead goddamn meat without him. She would not have even kind of survived. There is a moment at the end where she is like she's supposed to fight a god, one of the like head demons, and obviously she wins, but there's a line in it that's so fucking ridiculous to me, because the line is something along the lines of, she's been carrying this like little dagger this entire time, and then they give her a sword and she's like, oh, this is familiar, I've been doing this the whole time. Baby, those are two different things. It's like she explicitly needed help, she explicitly needed support, and that would be fine. The book just seems to not want that and not be okay with that. I did not like how characters were done at all in this book. I don't know, like that's the part that makes it feel like it didn't accomplish almost anything from The Wiz, because The Wiz is so heavily dependent on that character, on those character arcs, on those characters really like finding themselves over the course of their journey, and that just didn't happen. Especially when you have like me thrown in, like just throwing at the end all of these things that are just a horrible understanding of the characters that have been provided. When you throw in at the end, oh, you guys have hated each other this whole time, but you really want to fuck, like they didn't. if you're throwing in, oh, you were so close to betraying them. No, she wasn't. And it feels like we really missed the mark on the Wiz because we could not understand how to display the characters. We didn't understand the characters that had actually been given, and so we were being like, it's, with regards to character story, it was an aggressive example of telling, never showing, not once showing with this book. And it was just, it's one of those things where I would be extremely hesitant to read more from this author, because this is like a core thing in their craft, is how they're handling character arcs is a core thing within their craft. How they're handling repetition and redundancy in the work is a core thing within their craft. If I didn't like maybe a character trait, that's something that might not show up in another book. But if I did not like how the author was just, it felt like the author was just not giving me the character arc they thought they were giving me, that's something that's going to come up in future books, in past books, because I actually do have her other already published books from a couple of years ago. That's going to show up there. And so it does make me hesitant to read more. But my hope, and this might sound out left field, it might not, because I'm not like I'm generally not like a people should not read these books type of person. I think the only book I felt like some people shouldn't read was The Fucking Dark Place. But I really, really hope this book finds its readers, because I think the energy of the book is very much there, and I want the book to find the people that will like it and, you know, give the author the money to keep working, so that way, if it is of interest to the author, to shift into like some of the character, like to shift their character work, to shift some of their prose work into something that I might like more, that would be more of an option. If not, then, you know, again, the energy's there, the vibes are there, except the LaFreak thing. But otherwise, like, I just don't, these things are really big issues for me that I just don't know if I would want to regularly read from someone. But otherwise, I like, if those are things that end up changing in their work, I would love to pick up something from this author again in a distant future. Give it some time. Give it some time to, you know, work, change, adjust, and whatnot. But yeah, that is, I guess, that is my rant on this book. Yeah, that's my rant on this book. I will spend some time, maybe this week or next week, making sure all of my notes on my Patreon, which should also be linked down below, make sure all of those links are up to date for y'all, and make sure all of my notes are up to date on Patreon. But otherwise, that is all from me. Again, you can also check out my books down below, the links to the big GoFundMe spreadsheet and the non-Zionist graphic design program. All of those are linked down below. I will see you next time with something. We'll do something together. But that is all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, benedictions, friends.